Alright, now we are finally getting somewhere with this series. What's up, you guys? It's Jonathan Carter, and today we are in our 4th episode of the Road to series Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. The 4th episode means we are talking about the 4th entry in the series, which is Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol is the first and only, I believe, live-action movie directed by Brad Bird. Brad Bird directed both The Incredibles 1 and 2. Those are fantastic animated superhero movies. And for at least being his first directorial debut, this is a really solid film, you guys. Also, watching this movie in the opening credits, I believe this is the first Tom Cruise producing credit we get in the movie, or in the series, I mean. It might have been in Mission Impossible 3, someone correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think this is the first series, or the first film in the series where Tom Cruise has gotten that producer credit, and you can see as these movies go on from this point further in the series, he kind of starts to get a little more say and input in what these movies kind of become. So before we jump into this, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on TikTok, Instagram for shorter reviews, or over on Spotify for podcast versions of these reviews if you're more into podcasts. Also, like I said, this is the 4th episode in this series. I'll link the playlist to the first 3 Mission Impossible movies somewhere up here. Go check those out if you haven't watched them yet, and leave your thoughts on Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol down below in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think about this movie. With all that being said, without further ado, let's jump into the review. Alright, so like I said right at the beginning of this video, this is where the Mission Impossible series, you see that identity of the series has arrived. This is what the later entries from this point on become. They are definitely more akin to this film. In Mission Impossible 3, you could kind of see that roadmap creating what exactly the series would become, but this Ghost Protocol is the first one where you're like, yes, this is what Mission Impossible should be, and this is what it is for the remainder of at least running up to the new movie, The Final Reckoning. The biggest strength of Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol is it takes the best elements from the previous trilogy of Mission Impossible movies. So the kind of spy, espionage, more quaint dialogue from the first film way back in '96, and then the best version of like the over-the-top action of Mission Impossible 2, and then that like dread and drama and tense action that Mission Impossible 3 is known so well for. And it kind of sticks all of those elements in a blender and blends them all together to make the best version of those films, like the strongest elements. Instead of those first 3 movies kind of all felt like sporadic, and the only thing pulling them together or keeping them together in one like universe was Tom Cruise and also the Mission Impossible name, because other than that, those first 3 movies really feel like complete different films. They just share the Mission Impossible name. But Ghost Protocol is the first film that has kind of tried to wrap, like blend, pull together all of the Mission Impossible movies to make it feel like the same series, but also this feels so incredibly fresh and like it is kicking life into the Mission Impossible movies, kind of like how Fast 5 did for the Fast and Furious film. This is also the first movie in the Mission Impossible series, I think, where they have used the gadgets well. Like they feel modern but also futuristic, but not too far out there like the first and second Mission Impossible movies felt like. You're like, is this the future of technology? Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol definitely it has creative gadgets, and it makes it feel, it keeps the film grounded, but also pushes it up a little bit to keep it interesting and like, and give it a little bit of like that far-fetched, suspend your disbelief, like just a little bit. Especially in that scene in the beginning, in the Kremlin scene with Ethan and Benji, where they're like this screen and they're moving it and it's like super tense.
Get out of the way!
And then, of course, we can't go much further into the series or into this review without talking about the big stunt that this film is known for. So, from this point on, the Mission Impossible movies kind of become well known or like identified by their stunts, like the crazy over the top stuff that Tom Cruise wants to do in each movie. That started here with the famous Burj Khalifa. Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise literally climbed the tallest building in the world in Dubai, and I remember being like 12 years old seeing that in the IMAX. It was like a mind-blowing tense scene. I have a fear of heights, and watching that even like on my iPad the other day, like my hands were getting clammy. Like it is filmed so well, and the fact that Tom Cruise like actually did that, and there's like behind the scenes videos of him climbing the Burj Khalifa.
Just another day at work on Mission Impossible.
Just insane stuff. And that action scene, even though like it's the main point of the movie, like it's kind of dumb to say, that is the strongest aspect of this film is that Burj Khalifa scene, but also that, like I said, everything is blended together so well in this film to be the most accessible version of Mission Impossible. So by that I mean, yes, it's tense like the third movie, but it's not nearly as tense. It has a lot of humor in it. You can either watch the trilogy of movies leading into this and know what's going on, or this could be your first jumping on point for the series, and you wouldn't be lost because it writes the backstory and everything so well of Ethan Hunt, where you're like, yeah, you don't really need to know what's happening before this to just enjoy this movie. And I think speaking of that, it finally starts to try and connect the previous Mission Impossible movies, because they felt so spread out in their like lore and what was happening in those films before, that even though Ethan has left his wife like to keep her safe, he's single again, he's not married, it's still connected to Mission Impossible 3, where he did have a wife and he left her to protect her. That is part of this plot, and you get that really nice scene at the end of the film. Get that really touching scene at the end. You find out she's alive. Ethan still cares for her. He just cares for her. He has to keep her safe, so he is separated from her so that she's not put in harm's way like she was at the end of the third movie. So really going into the only downside of this film, and it's kind of not fair because this one doesn't reach the highest highs of like what these next 3 movies offer after this, or at least 2 that I've seen, or at least, you know, the one that I've seen that gets like really good. So it's not really the most fair nitpick of this movie, because like the movies after this hadn't existed when this movie came out. It's still not the strongest version of the Mission Impossible movies through the series, but it's easily the strongest out of these first 4. So kind of a nitpick, but also not really like the most fair critique of a film. So the verdict, this is easily the most accessible Mission Impossible movie out of these first 4 films. Great action, great writing, great acting, and over-the-top stunts and everything from Tom Cruise and the rest of the cast. You get a really solid team here, and a great directorial debut, and I think only live-action directorial film from Brad Bird. So, all that being said, I'm going to give Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol a 7.5 out of 10. If you have seen this movie, let me know all your thoughts on it in the comments. Do you like it as much as I do? Is it your favorite in the series? Is it your least favorite? Let me know what you're thinking below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all on the next one.